there's thousands of them. So
no, I'm just meaning what you see on the stage. Then, John, how's that better? Like that, the image that comes off for the end user is it's production, it's dancing, it's like they're performers, and they also sing, but that's just a little facet of it. It's or what it would seem to me.
Pop music, and particularly dance music now, it's about recreating the video, right? It's not. There's like performance is literally that. Like most of it's not even live.
They went to it though. They went for that, John. They're like what you're saying. It's funny that you said it. Like I'm literally sitting and I'm like, this is like a video. They're doing a video on stage right now.
That's what they do. That's what I mean. That's the thing is they're like they're literally, most of it is on a hard drive. Right. It's not, there's not really, it's a soundtrack to that performance. It's not a musical, you know what I mean? That's just the way there's a lot of even bands that go out there now where there's a hard drive that has background vocals on it and shit.
Well, I started hearing things about how when Roger Daltrey's got to go, yeah, like it's like, that's not him anymore. Like that's all sweetened up. All the,
I don't know about that in particular, but yeah,
that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Let me bring this up about the Grammys. They, from what I heard on the radio, either this morning or yesterday, some of the in memoriam, they're going to pay tribute to the late drummer of the Foo Fighters. And I was thinking, is Mark Lanigan getting some love? Is somebody shouting out to Lanigan?
I mean, first of all, the Grammys are going on right now, so I don't know what they're doing. But
did anybody know the lineup? Right, there's they usually go through and they're paying tribute to the greats that have been lost.
Right, they always have the memorandum, or whatever. I'm not getting the word. They have memoriam. Thank you. Where they have.
I've done a few of it in my day.
Yeah, they go and they show all the people that passed away since the last.
I hope Mark Lanigan gets a little bit.
But I would think, Tony, that he's got a good chance because it's recent. If this was November and the show is going on, I'm going to say there's no way you're going to see him.
No, they're actually pretty good. Like if the only thing that would be where potentially you miss someone is like, who knows if he had. That he was in the academy or whatever, and that he was overlooked. But no, come on, that's someone who got a lot of love in the New York Times. That was a.
I mean,
please. Every time they go and they have there's like an engineer who passes away. They're pretty.
I guess you're right, but I never thought of Screaming Trees as being it was still for, the initiated, not the uninitiated, even though the New York Times, that's a guy our age wrote that, I'm getting this in there, damn it.
Come on. I bet you the Screaming Trees had a nomination in grunge time.
Back in the day?
Best
or when they went to major label, you mean?
Please, yeah. Please.
Okay.
That's the thing is that the time indies, you didn't get anything unless you were like a.
I mean, his solo records are cool too. The ones he did recently are awesome.
So this is where my mind is being blown. Why are we talking about what's good music and the Grammys, right? I mean, we've never in our lives ever took the Grammys seriously. So why would it, let's the famous best heavy metal album, Jethro Tull.
Right. No, I know. I'm just wondering, and I'm going to have to look it up tomorrow. If they're giving a nod to the drummer of a band, they better.
By the way, I know we don't think about it, but they would be considered like a legendary band, one of the greatest of all time, 30 years with, Billboard charts like no other rock band in the history of all time, except for the Beatles. You know what I mean? It's don't get me to sound like he's just a drummer in a band. I mean, it was like is there maybe 5 other drummers that
he's no Ringo though. He's not starring in movies, is he? Unless I don't know his full backstory.
I
think you're comparing very apples to oranges here.
I think that he would not have got the time that he did. They did a little documentary on Jagged Little Pill, and he got a lot of FaceTime in that because he's another famous guy that came out of that era. So they were like, well, we got to do a little, we got to get him in there. Now
did he play in her band, or is it like they do on those?
Just any other drummer.
He did. He was the touring drummer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
But if it was some other drummer that you'd never heard of before and it never went on to play in the Foo Fighters, I don't think that that drummer would have got the FaceTime on that documentary. That
sure. Yeah.
That's the question. Did any other band member get any time in that movie?
I can't answer that because I only kind of watched it with a cursory sort of eye to it.
There you go. That's, I mean, I would think it was the guy who, I forget his name, who
to keep this a Beatles thing, by the way, like that was like, we've certainly mentioned it before. I know I have, like, it was one of those things where, where drummers like in bands were just like, well, it was the first time, like you knew who the drummer was, like everybody else, like Elvis's band and, like any other band that was out there, the Crickets and, it was just like, it was the guy, and then the rest of the band. And then finally, like, there was Ringo and he got to sing and he was up on a riser and, and you knew who he was. It was
right after him, Dave Clark.
Not really.
Ringo.
Not really.
Yeah, well, we're going to have this con. Dave Clark gave the Beatles a run, record for record, actually popularity-wise, in the first three quarters of '64. They were on Ed Sullivan more often. They had more hit. Well, same.
Because they could get him.
Yeah.
No, Dave will do it. We can't get the like Ed Sullivan would have had it. It's funny if you look at certain Ed Sullivan things that you can pick up on YouTube now. It's amazing how much Ed Sullivan milked the Beatles. It was just like, he has got like, like he would like, well, I had him, I broke him, I did this in the United States. And it was like any little film clip that he could get or Beatle injection that he could put into it from week to week. He was still, I'm doing that,
But what's funny is he did the same thing with Elvis, right? Because even when the Beatles,
I didn't know that.
Well, remember, because right. So he has Elvis from 57 or 58. Yeah, 57. Right, and he's anytime he can mention Elvis, and even when the Beatles are on, he's like, "I just got a telegram from Colonel Parker.
That's right.
Elvis Presley is wishing these guys, welcoming them to the best of luck." Right, and it was just like
it didn't happen.
Yeah.
By the way, that never happened.
John, let me ask you like a professional side of things. So Ed Sullivan does not have his ear to the ground, right? So he has like a producer or these talent people.
It's that in the old days, he would have a producer, but Ed picked the acts.
But somebody must have brought it to his attention and said, "Hey, Mr. Sullivan, there's this band in England that are huge." And
think about it, just like any other place, it's like RCA Records brought Elvis to his attention, or like. But the thing is, also it wasn't as far. So it was like. The talent scouts or the the people who wrote the gossip columns, like he's tight with it. Like he wrote a column every week called Talk of the Town in the Daily News.
Is he is he strictly a promoter? Did he come out of any kind of entertainment thing? Was he his own failed, entertainer who?
Not to my knowledge. He was a radio guy. He was he was an announcer and a radio guy, and he would he was a host, which is odd.
New York City guy. Do you know where he's born?
Don't know where he's born, but yeah, I mean, it's like saying a New York City guy is like he was in the entertainment business, so
right.
he was,
yeah, right. Ergo, he's right.
Yeah, it's like he wasn't, he might have like started in a little, he's such an odd guy. Like you almost think it's like. Really maybe he was born in another country. He has kind of that weird stilted, like, does he have an accent? It's like, but I don't know his history the way, we know that like, Johnny Carson came from Nebraska and it was a magician and then ended up, and ended up with a talk show because he was so charming.
You're right.
He was a game show host. So that, but he was.
Where's Ethan when you need him?
Well, I think he might have been right. I know he had a weekly column in various papers because there used to be like 6 or 7 daily papers just in New York City or whatever, like 12 or something at one point. And so he would do like the entertainment column. So it would be like, wow, I heard about this girl who spins plates and blah, 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 that Ed Sullivan said she was great or whatever. And then it becomes, and then there was probably, he's going to get this new thing, television. He's going to come on and there's all those things he talks about. He's going to have them on each week. And now we're going to get to hear them or see them. And, there was the Ted Mack amateur hour and there was it was
but if you told me that Ed Sullivan started in 1950 I would believe you, but in my mind Ed Sullivan doesn't start until Elvis appears on the show.
Oh, right. No, the show is from like 48 or something.
Yeah. Is it that early?
Yeah. I remember reading that.
He's like one of the first people with a TV show.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, it used to be like you would have, and it would always be something like, the Milton Berle Texaco Theater. It would be like a sponsor bought the whole show, or it would be like, Ivory Soap presents, and it's like 15 minutes with Nat King Cole. It would be, something, and it would be, at 3:30 in the afternoon for 15 minutes or something like that. And that's where all of these shows came out of. And he owned Sunday night the same way. Like he was one of the first, like he owned Sunday night. Lucille Ball had whatever night she had, her half hour, Red Skelton, like all of the, right. There was just
Sid Caesar.
Does Ed Sullivan have a moment where, like black entertainers, white audiences, I think, even in that era, I think, they were accepting of black entertainers, right? Like, I think they're just like, oh, he's a song and dance man. And like in white audiences, like, but did he have a moment where it was just like, you're having Nat Cole on your show? Like, like, yeah, I know that Nat Cole had his own show, and that was its own, huge, big, racial, whatever.
I mean, you're asking me a little too much, just what like specifics, but I know. I mean, I certainly there was like Harry Belafonte and a white woman like held hands or something like that. It went like as they sang a song, like that was like outrageous, and there's all of it. But I know, I don't think he pushed the envelope very much, but he would have on.
You're going to have to sing, hey girl, can't we spend some time together?
Well,
right. Yeah. So he's clearly not pushing the envelope.
But there's that, and there's the, get higher, and, you like higher, right? There's don't show Elvis below the hips.
Right.
But he did have the Supremes on like 12 times. He did. In my research from the last season when we talked about Ed Sullivan, I do recall that he had in the 60s, he definitely promoted black artists.
He would do, yeah. He would, I mean, I remember seeing the Temptations as a kid all the time. Yeah, they would.
That's a different time, though.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know about the 50s.
I'm saying early on with the Harry Belafontes, with the Nat Coles, with black entertainers, Sammy Davis Jr. Like it was like
he would have on. Like, I remember I think he would have on like Mom's Mabley. And I'm trying to think if you remember any people. Peg Leg. They had the one-legged tap dancer, the guy with the wooden leg. He was a black guy. I want to say pretty early he had on Ray Charles. But Ray Charles still would have been 60, 61. I'm trying. Sammy Davis. I'm trying to think, but I think it was just the Hines brothers, tap dancers, like they would, But as far as, and I don't know, I can't imagine.
Again, I still think American, audiences are ready for, the Hines brothers getting up and tap dancing. They're like, there's no problem with that.
You're just asking one thing, but yeah, I am sure Harry Belafonte came on and the Ed Sullivan Show, but as far as how it was described, that's it. But it was certainly he was not within 5 feet of a white woman. Like there is definitely that going on. So
yeah, I'm sure they had their right.
Because I remember there was I'm trying to remember what the musical was called, but Sammy Davis Jr. is on Broadway, and he plays a boxer, and the love interest is a white woman, and they were talking about, it's like, okay, yeah, we're talking about this interracial, but you can't kiss on stage, and so they did it, and it was like outrage that they actually kissed on stage, and that was a big. And that was, I want to say, it was like 64. It was it was shockingly late, But
getting back to Mike,
for a live untaped performance, still like doing that on the stage was shock and outrage, right?
But I definitely remember the thing about I think Nat King Cole's show got canceled because it was like one of those things where there was a white woman, they were singing, and it was like a love song, something like so mild, it's mind blowing. Yeah.
But just getting back to my question though, like let's say with the Beatles, the show's been on for at least 14, almost 16 years by our estimates.
Very famous story. So it's like the story goes is he was like
I don't know if I heard the question. Wait a minute.
I'm asking like about how he says he